It's mid-2024 and tons of brand new electric unicycles are on their way to us as we speak. We're going to be discussing the most exciting ones ranked by you, and at the very end of the video, we're going to be talking about some as yet unannounced electric unicycles that you probably don't know about until today. So let's get talking about it. This is Begode Time. Let's get started. Welcome to Begode Time, where we have the top 8 most exciting electric unicycles ranked by you guys. Andrew over at Freshly Charged conducted a poll from the EUC community, asking them what are the most exciting new and upcoming EUC releases for this year. In that poll, he got almost 400 responses. So we're going to be starting at the bottom of that list for those that got more than 1 or 2 votes. Starting with number 8, we have the Begode Mten5. The Mten5 is the successor to the Begode Mten4, where basically they fixed pretty much everything that's wrong with the Mten4. Now don't get me wrong, the Mten4 is a fantastic wheel. It's small, compact, lightweight, and super zippy and does exactly what people want them to do. But there were a few little issues with it. For example, it didn't have waterproofing. The Mten5 fixed that. Another problem with the Mten4 is that it just wasn't super compatible with aftermarket pads. And so the Mten5 fixed that by putting Velcro on both sides. And on top of that, Begode added their own pads and threw on some of their own romantic LED mood lighting just to set the tone. The Mten5 is the same size as the Mten4 and it has the same familiar 84-volt system. So it's going to seem a lot like the Mten4, just better. Number 7 on the list is the Kingsong F22. After the S22, Kingsong really kind of needed a redemption wheel. Kingsong has a really slow release cycle, and so every single EUC that they release really has to just knock it out of the park. The S22 is about 2 years old, and that was their highest performing EUC that they had. Now we have the F22. The S22 was a bit of a disappointment to a lot of people. The reason for that is because it was designed to compete a bit against the Master, but it just wasn't nearly as powerful as the Master. Furthermore, the problems were exacerbated with the S22 because the motherboard was not designed to handle the amount of current that people were asking of it, resulting in tons of fried boards from MOSFETs that were popping, just blown boards left and right. That said, Kingsong really needed to nail this release for the F22 just to make sure that they stay competitive. So let's talk about the F22's stats, and then we're going to be discussing why it ranked so low on the list. The F22 has 155 volts, and it has over 2,700 watt hours of batteries, and they're 50S batteries. Their new motherboard has 36 MOSFETs in it, and get this, the motor power is 5,000 watts. To add to that, the suspension uses fast ace stanchions, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's the same exact ones that they use for the Lynx and the Sherman S and the Sherman L. The reason why the F22 thus far isn't getting a whole lot of excitement from the community is because of the weight. Originally, they were talking about making it only 40 kilograms, but then as time went on, we found out that it actually went up to 50 kilograms. For most people, that's an instant deal killer unless this wheel is designed to be a touring wheel that is made to be really heavy. But instead, it's only 2,700 watt hours of battery, which frankly isn't bad. It's pretty good, but the weight doesn't quite justify it for almost anyone. The other reason why the excitement over the F22 really fizzled is because there are 4 suspension stanchions. I think the market has already proven that you only need 2. Ultimately, more moving parts equals more weight and also a higher chance of something breaking. But you know what? We could all be wrong. Even though the weight that they quoted us was 50 kilograms, maybe, just maybe, that's the gross weight. And the gross weight is the weight of the package, packaging materials, the charger, everything all included, the shipping weight, but not the weight of the wheel itself. Let's hope that's the case, because honestly, if they can just get this wheel down to about 90 pounds or so, this wheel could be amazing. Number 6 is the Extreme Bull Commander Max. The Commander Max is Extreme Bull's response to the Leaperkim veteran Sherman L. So much so that they initially named the Commander Max after the Sherman L. Originally, it was going to be called the Commander L, but after receiving a whole lot of feedback from the community about how juvenile that is, they decided to change it. Personally, I think it's hilarious though. The specs are designed to match or beat the Sherman L. With the Commander Max, it weighs only 101 pounds with 4,000 watt-hours of battery. But the Commander Max is also designed to outclass the Sherman L with its motor power. They're including it with a 4,000 watt motor, but if you want, you can upgrade it for a nominal increase in weight to get a 4,500 watt ET Max tile type motor. To top it all off though, Extreme Bull has confirmed that they're going to be having waterproofing and a smart BMS on this rig. It's going to be awesome. Number 5, the Begode Falcon. Honestly, I'm really surprised that this landed as high on the list as it did. After all, it's not one of the super duper high performance wheels. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the Falcon is a bad wheel by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that in this current day and age, people are mostly getting excited about the hyper wheels that are coming out rather than the beginner to intermediate class. But here we are now with the smallest and lightest suspension EUC on the market right now. The Falcon boasts a 100 volt system with 900 watt hours of 50S batteries and IP67 waterproofing. The Falcon is only one of 2 EUCs in this video that doesn't come with a smart BMS, which is a bit of a disappointment. But if it did have a smart BMS, then the price would also increase on it. So I guess I can't be too butthurt about it. I got the pleasure of briefly trying out the Falcon at EVs in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I was really impressed by its power to weight ratio. And even though it doesn't have a ton of suspension travel, it's more than enough for the needs and use cases that it's designed for. Number 4, the Begode ET Max. Honestly, the ET Max is not even that new. It's been out for a little while, so I'm not quite sure why it's on the list. But who am I to argue with the general public? They're the voters, not me. The ET Max is objectively the most powerful electric unicycle ever made, with 168 volts and a 4,500 watt tile type motor. This wheel is waterproof and awesome, but it's also really, really tall. And that's the biggest drawback that a lot of people are seeing with it. To put it another way, the ET Max is faster than you can travel on it. Most people are unable to get beyond a 50% PWM percentage on this wheel when the battery's full. That's crazy impressive. But the problem is with its height and how narrow the battery boxes are, it just makes it not very conducive to racing and much more prone to wobbles than something with a much lower center of gravity. So if you're riding with long straightaways, or if you're doing a drag race, for example, the ET Max is the only option right now. It's going to be the wheel that will get you there the fastest, without a doubt. But if you're doing tight turns or anything like that, you don't want the ET Max for that. It's not like the ET Max is inherently wobbly. It's just that if you have your pads set up wrong, or if you have your feet in the wrong place, or if you just do something dumb, then you're more likely to start wobbling with that wheel than with another wheel that is designed for racing. Number 4 is the Extreme Bull Griffin. The Griffin is Extreme Bull's answer to the Leaperkim Lynx, and essentially it's got almost all the same specs. It's almost as light, it's more powerful with a 4,000 watt motor or 4,500 watt ET Max motor and 2,700 watt hours of battery. One nice thing that they're implementing on this is that it does also have a smart BMS, but unfortunately it's looking like the waterproofing is going to be a bit subpar. They're saying that it has about the same waterproofing as the Commander GT, which frankly is not great. However, with specs like these, this could be the highest power to weight ratio wheel that is in existence. With a weight that low and having a 4,500 watt motor on there, if they can get their firmware tuned just right, this might not only outclass the Lynx on the track, but everything else as well. Number 2 is the Begode Blitz. The Blitz is an interesting animal because it's designed from the ground up to be a racing EUC. But the thing is, there's not that many EUC racers out there, so it's got to be good at some other stuff as well. The thing about the Blitz that makes it such an interesting animal is the fact that it is essentially the same specs as the Master, but it's lighter, significantly lighter, than the Master V4. With a 134 volt system and a 3,500 watt motor. This thing is basically the same as the Master, but it's got a C32 motor, which means that it's going to be higher speed capable, but it's not going to be capable of as much torque as the Master V4, which has a C38 motor. However, this whole thing might be negated because of it being so light that the moment of inertia happens sooner, and therefore accelerations may be faster. I'm not going to talk too much about my concerns with the Blitz because if you want, you can watch this video right here where I talk all about it, but we'll see how it turns out. Time will tell. The other little concern that I have with the Blitz is that because of it being as lightweight as it is, it doesn't have nearly as much gyroscopic stability as a wheel that has more rotating mass. Say, for example, the Extreme Bull Griffin. The Griffin is going to be having a heavier motor, which means that it's going to be inherently more stable. Therefore, I could be wrong on this, but I think that the Griffin is going to be better on the track than the Blitz. Now, before I talk about the most exciting EUC of 2024, I'm going to be gently tapping the brakes for a moment, just so I can shamelessly beg you to hit that subscribe button. My goal is to hit 4,000 subscribers before the end of the year 2024, so if you could help me reach that goal, I'd greatly appreciate it. Number 1, the Leaperkim Veteran Sherman L. Taking a massive slice of the vote, the Veteran Sherman L is designed for long-range, high-speed road riding. The Veteran Sherman L has 4,000 watt-hours of 50S batteries with a 151-volt system and a 3,200 watt motor. It's identical to the Lynx in almost every way, with just a little bit more weight added to it. I think Leaperkim's train of thought was, we already got a good thing going. The Lynx is already one of the most sought after and most popular, most well-loved electric unicycles ever made. So why change a winning formula? If we look through all the hype, the Sherman L doesn't check any boxes that make it the best at any category, really. It doesn't have IP67 waterproofing that we're aware of. It doesn't have the highest voltage. It doesn't have the most batteries. It doesn't have the highest speed. But what it does have, though, is undoubtedly the best performance with the best firmware out there. And everything else just merges and meshes so well with that amazing firmware that Leaperkim provides. Another massive draw to Leaperkim products, and especially the Sherman L, is the safety factor. Leaperkim doesn't have a history of causing any battery fires. The only company in the world that has pretty much a perfect record. But then on top of that, they added one more really nice safety feature on the Sherman L that they're going to be adding onto other electric unicycles as well. And that feature is Hall sensorless functionality. In essence, if you disconnect the Hall sensor, or if there's an interruption in communication between the Hall sensor and the motherboard, it will be able to continue to ride indefinitely, even after you stop, all the way until you get it turned off. Since the Sherman L beat the pants off of every other EUC out there, but it still did not claim the crown in any particular stat category, maybe, just maybe, it's time for us to stop looking so much at what the stats are saying and look at the wheel as a whole. If everyone's clamoring after a 151-volt wheel, do we really necessarily need all 168 volts? The voters don't seem to think that way. What people really seem to want is a really highly polished package with good waterproofing, a great suspension, and high resale value. Leaperkim could have made a 200+ volt wheel, but they decided that they were just going to leave it to other brands. Which brings me to my next topic. Unannounced EUCs. As it turns out, the voltage wars are not over at all. I'm not going to say too much, but let's just say that if you think 168 volts is a lot, that's cute. You ain't seen nothing yet. Next, and on a completely separate note, we have the InMotion V18. I believe the announcement for the V18 is imminent. The reason for that is because there was a leaked document that said that the V18 would be mass-produced in July of this year. And so just because this is the way InMotion does it, they mass-produce their first batch, and then it's basically ready to go. They send their demos out immediately to testers. Since apparently it most likely was mass-produced already, if it stayed on schedule, then this wheel is going to be announced really, really soon. A few months back when I started hearing word about this wheel, People were saying it's amazing. It's going to be this super duper hyper wheel that's going to blow all the others out of the water. And then about a month or so ago, there was a bit of a tone change where people were saying that it's more of a mid-range wheel. It's basically like a V11 replacement. It's something that is not their flagship hyper wheel that we were initially expecting. So we'll see, and most likely we're going to be seeing really soon. Lastly, we have the Begode Panther and maybe one more. Now that name is speculative. That's just the name that I'm presuming it's being called because of the teases that are being put out by John, aka Rockabye, who's been posting these really cryptic photos on social media that all signs are pointing to it being called the Panther. What do we know about the Panther though? Not a whole lot, but here's what I'm expecting. 168 volts, 4,440 watt hours of battery, and I'm expecting it to be a Master Pro replacement. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the exact same as the Super Master Pro, air quotes, that I was talking about in a previous video from quite a while ago. The reason for that is because I heard that the Super Master Pro is supposed to have 6,000 watt hours of battery and maybe a 24-inch wheel. So I don't know if the Panther is going to be the Super Master Pro that I talked about, or if it's going to be a totally separate wheel where we're going to be seeing something with even more battery capacity. And to be clear, there is no in-between for these battery capacities. It's 4,440 watt hours or 6,000 watt hours and nothing in between. A 4440 watt hour battery pack is going to be in a 6P configuration if it's got 168 volts. On the other hand, if it's going to be in an 8P configuration, it has to be 6,000. So if you make a 5P configuration, then you could in theory do that, but I just haven't seen it on any Begode EUCs. We'll see. If you want to be one of the first to hear about all the new exciting EUC releases, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you're in the market for a brand new EUC and you feel like supporting the channel, make sure you hit the video description where there's tons of affiliate links and discount codes where you can get the best value for your next purchase. That's all for now. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.